Tonight, former President Joe Biden's cancer battle. We've learned Biden is fighting an aggressive form of prostate cancer spreading to his bones. The former president, who made the cancer moonshot a top priority, is now reviewing his own treatment options. The new photo he's sharing with former First Lady Dr. Jill Biden, and the troubling questions about why the cancer wasn't detected sooner. But we're now learning about a possible prognosis. Week 2 of the Diddy trial now underway. More on the witnesses who say they saw Diddy being physically violent toward his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Our team from the courthouse is standing by. Also on this Monday night, the tornado watches after more than 24 people were killed in 3 states. More than 30 million on alert for severe weather from Texas to Nebraska. The investigation after that deadly car bombing at a fertility clinic, the FBI is calling it an act of terrorism. The suspect killed in the blast. We'll look at the impact of the Trump administration's move to end student loan forgiveness.
How long do you think you can keep up at this pace?
I mean, I am not keeping up. We just gonna keep praying and seeing, because that's just about all you can do right now.
The latest disturbing close call, a pair of planes as close as a quarter-mile apart on an active runway. And the urgent warning from NASA tonight about a solar flare storm, how it could disrupt cell phone service, and much more.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We begin with former President Joe Biden's difficult cancer diagnosis and the questions it now raises. The 82-year-old shared the grim news that he is battling an aggressive form of prostate cancer and that it has already spread to his bones. In his statement, Biden said that it was discovered after experiencing increasing urinary symptoms. The former president is now reviewing his treatment options. Biden dropped his bid for re-election after last summer's debate performance and amid growing concerns about his age, health, and mental acuity. After losing his son, Beau, to brain cancer 10 years ago, Biden launched his Cancer Moonshot initiative. Today, Biden posted this photo with his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, on X, saying, "Cancer touches us all," writing, "Thank you for lifting us up with love and support." Of course, now there are questions about why his cancer wasn't detected sooner and what the prognosis might be. We have a leading cancer doctor standing by. But first, our senior political correspondent Rachel Scott leads us off from the White House.
Tonight, former President Joe Biden posting this picture, smiling next to the former First Lady in Delaware, where they are reviewing treatment options in his battle with stage 4 prostate cancer, which has spread to his bones. "Cancer touches us all," he writes. "Like so many of you, Jill and I have learned that we are strongest in the broken places. Thank you for lifting us up with love and support." It comes just 4 months after the 82-year-old Biden left office. The former president's team saying he was diagnosed Friday after he experienced urinary symptoms and doctors found a nodule on his prostate. They say his cancer has a Gleason score of 9 out of a possible 10, indicating a more aggressive form of the disease. Medical experts say that means the cancer cells are likely to grow and spread rapidly.
How serious is this diagnosis?
It is quite serious. Once anyone is diagnosed with metastatic cancer, generally it's going to mean it's uncurable or very low likelihood of cure.
But doctors say it can be treated and managed with hormone therapy, something the Bidens say they are exploring. Earlier this month on The View, the former president sounding upbeat.
My question is, how are you? How you doing?
I'm well. The family's well, thank God. Things are moving along, and we're getting squared away.
Cancer has long tested the Biden family in profound ways. The former president spearheading his Cancer Moonshot, searching for a cure after his son Beau died of brain cancer in 2015 at just 46 years old.
I remember him saying to me, "Dad, this is the God of truth. Dad, I'm not afraid. I'm going to be okay." He knew he was about to die, but he said, "You got to promise me you'll stay involved."
Tonight, an outpouring of support. Biden's Vice President Kamala Harris saying, "Joe is a fighter, and I know he will face this challenge with the same strength, resilience, and optimism that have always defined his life and leadership." Former President Barack Obama noting, "Nobody has done more to find breakthrough treatments for cancer in all its forms than Joe, and I am certain he will fight this challenge with his trademark resolve and grace." Upon hearing the news, President Trump saying he and the First Lady extend our warmest and best wishes to Jill and the family, and we wish Joe a fast and successful recovery. But late today, the president shifting in tone, now asking questions.
I think it's very sad, actually. I'm surprised that it wasn't, the public wasn't notified a long time ago, because to get to stage 9, that's a long time.
Biden's last physical as president was in February of 2024. A White House doctor declaring him fit for duty, saying routine tests identified no new concerns. The year before, doctors found and removed a cancerous skin lesion on his chest. His medical records do not indicate whether he was given a PSA test, which detects prostate cancer. But experts say that test is typically not recommended for men older than 70. And a late diagnosis is not unusual in that age group.
I would say on average, if I see patients at this age, it's a common scenario that they're diagnosed with advanced disease because very often their PSA was no longer being checked. They were no longer undergoing screening.
So important to get those tests done. Rachel Scott joins us now. And of course, for years, former President Biden's cancer moonshot was his defining issue. Now he's fighting cancer himself. Do we know anything about the president's treatment plan?
Yeah, and even Biden himself, Linsey, today saying that cancer touches us all. We do know that the former president is now reviewing his treatment plans, including the option of hormone therapy with his team of doctors. Medical experts, though, say that with a cancer this aggressive at this stage, surgery is likely not an option, but treatment can help slow the spread of the disease and manage symptoms, Linsey.
All right, Rachel Scott from the White House. Thanks so much, Rachel. Since President Biden's announcement, there have been questions about what exactly his diagnosis means and what we know about how to treat prostate cancer. To help us understand, we're joined by Dr. Michael J. Morris, a prostate cancer section head for Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. He is not treating President Biden. Just want to let our viewers know that. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. So we know so far Biden's office has released that he has an aggressive form of cancer. They characterized it as with a Gleason score of 9. Explain to us what that means.
Sure. Prostate cancer is a pretty diverse disease. Many prostate cancers are relatively mild. Many of them don't even need treatment. And on the other hand, many of them are quite aggressive. The Gleason score is a scoring system that allows us to understand what the cancer looks like under the microscope in terms of how aggressive it is. It's a 10-point score. The 8s, the 9s, and the 10s are the most aggressive forms of the disease.
And how common would you say prostate cancer is?
Prostate cancer is the most common cancer in American men and the second leading cause of death amongst American men. So it's a very, very common disease.
You know, there are a number of people who are wondering, this is the President of the United States. He must have had tests. He must have been monitored closely. How is he now suddenly at stage 4 and metastasized to the bone?
Screening for prostate cancer is one of the most controversial topics in preventative medicine. So the screening test itself, the PSA, is an imperfect screening methodology for identifying the kind of prostate cancer that is most impactful and aggressive to men. And in addition, right now, guidelines suggest stopping general screening for the patient population who's at general risk at the age of 70. So he's quite a bit of ways from sort of the routine screening population, unless there is some other issues that would warrant it that we don't know about.
Now, his office has said that his cancer is hormone sensitive. What does that mean with regard to treatment?
So prostate cancer is a disease that's really fueled by the hormone testosterone. So by manipulating testosterone, you can really impact how prostate cancer grows. You can really turn that growth engine off by decreasing testosterone levels or giving medicines that really interfere with the testosterone-fueled apparatus within the prostate cancer cell. So when we say hormone sensitive, it means that the cancer is responsive to lowering testosterone or addressing otherwise the testosterone-fueled apparatus that is at work. It's a very treatable disease, even though it's an aggressive disease and even though it is metastatic disease. Those are scary words, but prostate cancer is quite a treatable disease, even in its most advanced stage.
Even if it's at stage 4?
Yes, indeed.
So what do you think are next steps for President Biden?
I can't speak to his situation in and of itself, but he will probably, like most patients, go on some form of hormonal therapy. In today's day and age, that's generally 2 types of drugs, one of which will lower testosterone levels, one of which will go to the prostate cancer itself. to the cell itself and interfere with the way that testosterone acts on the cell. Generally speaking, that doublet therapy is appropriate for most patients, but of course, all treatment is tailored to an individual's risks, other issues that they may face medically, and their overall expected longevity from issues that are completely independent of prostate cancer.
How often should men get checked for prostate cancer?
That really depends on their own age, their risk status, their family history, and their initial PSA. So there isn't a one-size-fits-all, and that's why most guidelines state that there should be a process of shared decision-making between a patient and his provider. So most people will get a PSA in their mid to later 40s, but then the frequency with which they need successive testing, that is how many years should go by before their next test, really depends on the results of that first test, plus their family history, plus any other factors that may contribute to risk. So for example, African Americans have a somewhat different screening recommendation than other folks, just based on risk.
Dr. Morris, we thank you so much for your time and insight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
A deadly tornado outbreak has killed at least 28 people, and 30 million Americans are still on alert. More than 100 reported tornadoes since Thursday. This one in Arnett, Oklahoma. And AccuWeather storm chasers in Grinnell, Kansas captured this tornado crossing Interstate 70. Devastation also in Laurel County, Kentucky, where at least 17 people died. Ginger Z has our forecast from Oklahoma in a moment. But first, ABC's Janae Norman reports from Kentucky.
Tonight, millions on alert for tornadoes, high winds, and powerful storms for a fifth night in a row. Overnight, more than 30 tornadoes reported across multiple states. Northwest of Wichita, AccuWeather storm chaser Tony Lawback face to face with a monster wedge tornado crossing Interstate 70 in Grinnell, Kansas. This massive tornado spotted on the ground in Colorado, not far from Denver's airport. More than 24 killed since this outbreak began. At least 5 killed in St. Louis. Harrowing footage showing construction workers dodging flying debris from storms that hit there Friday night. Some 80 miles south of Lexington, Kentucky, a path of utter destruction through Laurel County. The tornado's winds estimated to be at least 136 miles an hour. At least 17 people killed in this county alone. Surveyors estimate it was at least an EF3 tornado that ripped through this part of Kentucky, toppling trees like this. The Watts family here hunkered down in their bathroom. 2 of their neighbors had their homes lifted up and launched across the road. Haley Watts, thankful she survived those ferocious winds.
We just got in the floor of the bathroom, did the whole old school on your knees, cover your head, and it just went over us.
Just stunning devastation there, Janae. Thank you. ABC's chief meteorologist Ginger Z is in the storm zone tonight as well. Ginger, where's the system heading now?
Yeah, so Lindsay, the sun just came out again after we had a severe thunderstorm warning blow through here in Oklahoma City. And that is still ahead of the actual dry line that we're watching for the instigation of tornadoes possibly tonight. So that's a sharp division between moisture and very dry air, one of the big factors you need for tornado development. It's also why you see tornado watches all the way from the Red River Valley there in North Texas up through much of Oklahoma, northwestern Arkansas, western Missouri, eastern Kansas, and parts of Nebraska and Iowa. We've already had observed tornadoes from Nebraska to parts of Oklahoma, and we're going to keep watching these lines progress east as we go through tonight. So let's time it out, because it's not just about the long track tornadoes that are possible, because we are currently in that level 4 out of 5. But even after the sun sets, we could see tornadoes and damaging wind progress after 10 p.m. You see it there from Fort Smith up to St. Louis. Some of the same areas that got hit so hard with dozens of tornadoes over the weekend are going to get it again on Tuesday. You see how that line blows through London, Kentucky? You just saw Janae talking about that region there. So unfortunately, Tuesday opens up again in that same area. Memphis, Nashville's included, Tupelo, Mississippi, Birmingham, Huntsville, Knoxville, and that part of southern Kentucky. Lindsay?
All right, Ginger Z for us. Thanks so much, Ginger. Taking the stand in Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial, former Danity Kane singing group member Dawn Richard, she told the jury that she witnessed Combs attack ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura several times when she was signed to Combs' label. Also on the stand today, Ventura's best friend Carrie Morgan, who also said she witnessed 2 assaults. Still in the courtroom tracking it all is ABC News chief correspondent Aaron Katursky. Aaron, in addition to testimony, I know that new images were released today. What can you tell us about those?
These are the startling images that the jury has already seen, that federal prosecutors have now released publicly, and they show a battered and bruised Cassie Ventura when she was talking about some of the beatings that she said she endured at the hands of Sean Combs. These were the pictures that the jury saw, the welts on her back, the bruises on her eyes and legs, the ones that she said she would try to cover up with makeup and sunglasses. And in fact, today, one of the things Dawn Richard testified about was a 2009 festival in Central Park, Linsey. She said beforehand they were getting ready, and she witnessed Sean Combs punch Cassie Ventura in the face with a closed fist, leaving her with a black eye. She testified that Cassie Ventura ran into the bathroom crying and immediately started applying makeup and put on sunglasses when she went outside. And Dawn Richard and her Diddy Dirty Money bandmate Kalina Harper wore sunglasses the whole time too, she said, in solidarity. The jury has also seen some other stunning images from the night that Sean Combs was arrested. Federal agents said they seized baby oil, $9,000 cash, illicit drugs, and a device to cast mood lighting, the very same items that Cassie Ventura testified she was made to stock in hotel rooms for freak-offs, these marathon sex performances. Those same items found in the hotel in Midtown Manhattan the night Sean Combs was arrested. Linsey?
All right, lots of new information there. Aaron Katursky, our thanks to you as always. We should mention Diddy has pleaded not guilty. For more, let's bring in attorney and ABC News contributor Bernarda Villalona and entertainment lifestyle reporter Jasmine Simpkins, based in Los Angeles. Thank you both so much for joining us. Bernarda, of course, you were in court today. Let's start with what struck you.
What struck me, I think there were so many things. Dawn Richard, when she testified, when she was cross-examined by Nicole Westmoreland, because she was crucially, I would say, devastated on the stand in terms of inconsistencies, but more importantly, an omission that was made. And that was one having to deal with. She said that Sean Combs had threatened her that people can go missing if they were to say anything. And the problem is, Linsey, is that she had not said that to prosecutors prior to her testifying, but in terms of prior to her even coming in last week. And this is the first time we're learning about this. Also, in terms of Carrie Morgan, who testified, that crucial day, the Intercontinental incident, where it didn't end at the Intercontinental Hotel, that instead Sean Combs had went to the apartment and with a hammer was slamming onto the door, trying to get in and trying to get Cassie. Those were crucial moments today.
How devastating is that for the prosecution, that it seems at times Dawn Richard wasn't able to keep her story straight?
Yeah, I think that's a huge problem for the prosecution. I'm surprised why they even called her, because I, as a former prosecutor, I wouldn't have called her, because her testimony, what she had to offer, wasn't worth it, especially when you're talking about that crucial piece of testimony you wanted of her not mentioning in terms of that people can go missing. I don't think it was necessary, especially since you didn't ask Cassie about those 2 assault incidents, so it wasn't necessary. But the prosecution is still able to bounce back when they call Carrie Morgan, and we're able to get some crucial pieces of testimony for the prosecution.
Jasmine, I want to bring you in here. I know that you were in court last week for Cassie Ventura's testimony. As someone who's covered a number of celebrities, what stands out to you most about this trial?
I think what stands out most about the trial is just that over the years, a lot of us have interviewed a lot of these people, Dawn Richard, Cassie, Diddy, and now finding out that during that time, as they are putting on a brave face, going out on, putting out music, touring, doing shows, Cassie in particular, doing a whole press run for a film, and knowing that just days, hours before she hit a red carpet with Sean Combs, that she had been through this horrible ordeal in the Intercontinental Hotel. So things like that, I think, for me, have really touched me, given me pause, and made me very, very concerned about what other details are going to come out. I actually think Dawn was actually a good witness to have on the stand today, also because she spent so much time with Sean. She was in 2 groups, under Danity Kane and under Dirty Money, and spent a lot of time around him. So maybe she didn't see as much about with regard to a lot of the violence with Cassie, but I'm sure, as she said today, she saw a lot: guns, drugs, his staffers, how they were being bullied, how they were scared, how she herself was afraid of Sean, and just the iron fist with which he ruled over Bad Boy.
Do you think that this trial stands to impact pop culture overall?
I think it does. And I think as we've said before with OJ, the trial of the century, I think we're seeing again another trial that will be talked about for decades. Sean Combs was one of the biggest entertainers in hip hop and in music and in the Black community. I would say one of the hugest figures in the community. And so to see his fall from grace and to find out that all that he had built up, this guise of Black excellence, and behind that was this devilish world and empire, it's very disappointing. And I think his fans are highly disappointed, but I think there's a lot of intrigue. People want answers, and they want to know, had they been duped this whole time by a man who was presenting himself to be someone totally different than who he really was.
And tomorrow, Bernardo, we're expecting to hear from an escort known as the Punisher, as well as Cassie's mom. What are you looking for then? So, quite a name, I know.
So the Punisher, I'm actually looking forward to hearing his testimony to state exactly what was these freak-offs and how he earned the name the Punisher. In terms of Cassie's mother is just going to corroborate some of the injuries that she had seen on Cassie, and also I believe some of the conversations about leaving Sean Combs and how dependent she was on Sean Combs.
All right, Bernardo Villalona, Jasmine Simpkins, we thank you both so much for your time. There is new reporting on that powerful explosion at a fertility clinic in Palm Springs, California. Investigators are calling it a terror attack. The suspect is identified as a 25-year-old who left writings behind. ABC's Kana Whitworth has more.
Tonight, the FBI investigating what they say was a terror attack targeting a California fertility clinic. Authorities now identifying the suspect using DNA. The body of 25-year-old Guy Barkis, found next to the car, detonated outside of American Reproductive Center in Palm Springs. Sources telling ABC News 2 assault-style rifles were also found.
We believe he was attempting to live stream it.
The FBI searching a home linked to the suspect, finding what they called a manifesto. In writings reviewed by ABC News, he expressed a belief the world should not be populated. The blast shattering windows, sending shrapnel flying hundreds of yards, injuring 4 people.
It knocked the wind out of you inside the building.
It felt like a really, really bad earthquake.
City officials credit the FBI and fire department for saving the embryos, eggs, and other sensitive material by racing into the blast zone to restore power.
There was potential to help some families and hopes and dreams.
In the chaos, Deputy Chief Lyle had unknowingly helped one of his own.
I got a text message from one of our fire personnel that just said, "Thank you for saving my embryos." His wife was one of the ones that was going to have an appointment that week. When I heard about that was touching, for sure.
They wouldn't have been able to keep without you.
Maybe.
You're hesitant to take the credit.
Yeah. It wasn't me, it was everybody.
Kana, what else do we know about the investigation and also the casualties?
Right. So first of all, Linsey, this is developing very quickly. The only person that died is the suspect. And recently today, the FBI confirming that through DNA testing from his remains that were found at the blast site. We're also now learning from sources, Linsey, that are telling ABC News that at one point, this suspect operated several now deleted social media accounts where he would upload videos of homemade bomb tests and discuss suicide. Linsey.
Fascinating. All right. Kana Whitworth, our thanks to you. Now to the fallout after that dramatic and audacious jailbreak in Louisiana on Friday. 10 inmates escaped. Authorities say it was likely an inside job. New surveillance video that uses facial recognition technology appears to show 2 of them in New Orleans' French Quarter. Tonight, at least 3 suspects are back in custody, but several remain on the run. Our Faith Abube reports from New Orleans tonight.
Tonight, this new surveillance video captured with privately owned facial recognition technology and first obtained by ABC News, appearing to show 2 of the 10 fugitive inmates dressed in plain clothes in the French Quarter, just hours after that brazen jailbreak. Authorities in New Orleans now raising the reward in the urgent manhunt for the 7 inmates still on the run, days after what officials say could be the largest jailbreak in Louisiana history.
Most of them are violent in terms of gun violence. Some of them have murder backgrounds. And so all of them are considered very dangerous and probably potentially armed at this time.
Authorities say just after midnight Friday, 10 inmates busted through defective locks on multiple jail cells at the Orleans Parish facility, crawled through a hole behind a toilet in a cell, and ran off, allegedly leaving behind this mocking message, "Too easy, LOL." Authorities say a technician monitoring the area had stepped away to grab food. The escaped inmates on the run for more than 7 hours before jail officials noticed and alerted the public. Tonight, 3 suspects back behind bars as authorities investigate whether the fugitive inmates had help from inside the jail.
We have indication that these detainees received assistance in their escape from individuals inside of our department.
Our thanks to Faith. Today, the Supreme Court allowed the Trump administration to terminate temporary protected status for 350,000 Venezuelans who are in the United States and protected from deportation. TPS was enacted by Congress and signed into law by President George H.W. Bush. It allows migrants to work and live in the U.S. if they come from nations experiencing national disasters, armed conflict, and other extraordinary conditions. The Trump administration, the lawyers, had argued a lower court's decision undermined, quote, the executive branch's inherent powers as to immigration and foreign affairs. But the Supreme Court's decision did not explain why or when the administration can start deportations, leaving the lives of many in limbo. The Trump administration is set to pay out nearly $5 million to settle a lawsuit brought by the family of Ashley Babbitt, the rioter fatally shot during the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. The settlement was brought by her estate during the Biden administration and sought $30 million, alleging the Capitol police officer Michael Byrd was negligent in his duties. The DOJ in 2021 did clear Lieutenant Byrd of any wrongdoing in the shooting. Capitol Police Chief Tom Manger said in a statement today to ABC News that he is extremely disappointed. Next tonight, new reporting after that deadly boat crash into the Brooklyn Bridge. All 3 masts snapping into pieces. Nearly 280 sailors from the Mexican Navy on a training mission were on board. 2 of them were killed. Several others are now recovering from injuries. Arju Benitez has that story.
Tonight, growing questions about what caused that catastrophic ship crash into the Brooklyn Bridge, killing 2 people, injuring 19 more. Stunning videos capturing the moment of impact Saturday night. This one filmed by someone on the bridge. Late today, officials confirming there was no significant damage to the iconic bridge. The NTSB says the Mexican Navy ship carrying nearly 300 people on a training mission departed a Manhattan pier around 8:20 Saturday night with the help of a tugboat. Sailors seen lining the towering masts. The ship reversing into the East River when it started to pick up speed.
We are going to be accessing all the different electronic data to determine at what point the vessel began accelerating.
4 minutes later, around 8:24 p.m., the crew requesting assistance from more tugboats. And roughly 45 seconds after those calls, the ship hitting the bridge. All 3 masts snapping like sticks, sailors left dangling. That tugboat appeared to try to steer the ship, called the Quadamac, south, but it kept drifting north towards the bridge. Experts pointing to videos like this, showing a possible wake, suggesting the engines were pushing it faster right into the bridge.
That indicates that there's some sort of propelling force. So it does indicate that the ship is coming astern and actually driving itself toward the Brooklyn shore and the bridge.
Our thanks to Gio. New Jersey's first statewide transit strike in more than 40 years has ended after the engineers union and the state came to an agreement on Sunday. Trains will run again Tuesday morning. Today, New Jersey Transit relied on supplemental bus service. According to the union's chairman, the deal will boost hourly pay beyond the state's original proposal. The strike lasted 3 days, leaving some 350,000 commuters scrambling. Still ahead, air traffic control woes at Newark Airport have grabbed recent headlines, but you'll want to hear the recent audio out of LaGuardia when a plane was forced to abort its takeoff at the last second. And millions of student loan borrowers have received notice to once again pay up on amounts that they'd previously defaulted on, how they're sweating it out, and the other programs that could be at risk.
You want to go to school, you want to have a good job, you want to buy a home, have a lasting impact in your community, in your family. Like, that's my version of the American dream.
Welcome back, everyone. For years now, a battle has been brewing over student loans. Former President Joe Biden trying to give millions of borrowers a clean slate, but faced legal hurdles. And now the Trump administration is taking a different approach, requiring repayment for some borrowers and even reconsidering programs meant to shorten the window. So what could this mean for your own student loan debt? ABC's Alex Perche has more.
I'm not even worried about student loans because I couldn't pay for my medications last week.
Mackenzie Johnson is one of the roughly 9 million Americans behind on their student loan payments.
In a perfect world, I would love to be able to pay my loans. I genuinely would love to be able to pay my loans comfortably with the money I make from one job and also pay my rent and also be able to afford groceries and medication.
Now under the Trump administration, Johnson could soon feel the pinch in her paycheck. For the first time since COVID, the federal government is resuming collections on defaulted loans, which means they could potentially garnish borrowers' income tax returns, Social Security, even portions of paychecks if loans aren't paid. Has this impacted your credit already?
Not yet, surprisingly.
Mackenzie graduated from Rutgers Camden in 2018. She has roughly $65,000 in student loan debt. Crippled by disability, she was unemployed, but just recently she landed a job.
So I went on unemployment forbearance, and as soon as I came off unemployment forbearance, all of the income-based repayment plans were paused.
Now that she's employed, the federal government wants her to make $400 in monthly payments under a basic payment plan. And that's on top of $400 a month of loans she owes to a private lender. In total, that would mean a third of her monthly income going to student loan repayments.
How long do you think you can keep up at this pace?
I mean, I am not keeping up. We just gonna keep praying and seeing, because that's just about all you can do right now.
It is chaos right now.
Chaos because there have been so many changes in recent months for borrowers. In February, a federal court injunction stopped many income-driven repayment plans, but in late March, income-driven repayment plans became available once again through the Department of Education. But servicers are still updating their systems to process applications, creating a backlog. And in the midst of this back and forth, the Department of Education, responsible for the $1.6 trillion loan portfolio, is actively being dismantled by the Trump administration. The president has said that he wants federal loans handled by the Small Business Administration.
The Department of Education also had previously shut down the application for income-driven payment, which meant that a lot of borrowers couldn't recertify their income. And for a lot of borrowers, especially those who have lost their job recently, they didn't have the option to have their payments recalculated based upon their new income.
Are there some tips that you can provide for borrowers to help make sure that their repayment plans stay intact?
StudentAid.gov is the central repository of their federal student loans, and will tell them where their loans have been assigned to, and will allow those borrowers to then proactively reach out to those servicers. Take screenshots both of their StudentAid.gov accounts and also their servicer accounts. The last thing I'm going to suggest is that every single congressional office has constituent services to help their constituents when they are dealing with problems with the federal government. And of course, these are federal student loans. We're encouraging folks to reach out to those offices right now if they are experiencing problems.
Student loans can be difficult to navigate even for those who can afford to pay. Jacqueline Green has been a consultant for an NGO and is part of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program that was started under President George W. Bush. The program rewards public servants like U.S. government employees, firefighters, nurses, and some working in their nonprofit sector with loan forgiveness, as long as the employees make 120 consecutive student loan payments and work at least 10 years.
When I found out about the program, I thought, okay, this is an opportunity for me to breathe financially and get closer to the American dream. You want to go to school, you want to have a good job, you want to buy a home,
have a lasting impact in your community, in your family. Like, that's my version of the American dream.
But another change under President Trump's administration, the NGOs she works for may soon be ineligible for student loan forgiveness.
This administration can't unilaterally take it away without an act of Congress.
But
it is under threat, and so borrowers need to be prepared to both document what they've done, get those employment certifications in as soon as possible to ensure that they are able to get their time counted.
Jacqueline is on year 7 of working for this NGO, 3 years away from potentially having her loans forgiven.
if your eligibility were to go away, or if they were to drastically change the requirements for the program, does it feel like a promise not kept?
I'm just playing the waiting game, and I'm hopeful that my student loans will be forgiven.
Studies show Black women are the most educated group in the U.S., and according to the National Center for Education Statistics, they have more student debt, $39,000 on average for undergraduate education. The average for student debt in America is nearly $29,000. For Markenzie, she believes she'll have to go into more debt before her financial situation improves.
At a certain point, it's about what you want. I've always known the only way that I am going to level up financially is going to be a higher level of education. I will be going back. Yes, one day I will be Dr. Markenzie Elise Johnson with student loans, but I will be educated and better able to navigate this mess.
You say the only way is up.
It's the only way.
Even if it's walking up that mountain.
Yeah, even if it's crawling. With my teeth. Where else I got to go? I ain't going down.
Our thanks to Alex Prochet for that. Coming up, it was a popular DNA testing company that went bankrupt. Now it's getting saved, the future of 23andMe. And with former President Joe Biden's recently announced diagnosis, we take a deeper look at the numbers behind prostate cancer. Welcome back, everyone. President Biden's prostate cancer diagnosis is raising awareness for prostate cancer, how it's treated, and how to be screened for it. What you need to know is tonight's By the Numbers. Prostate cancer is the most frequently diagnosed cancer among men in the United States, according to the National Institute of Health. The cancer has an overall 5-year survival rate of 98%, but in cases where the cancer has spread to other parts of the body, the overall 5-year survival rate is 37%. The National Institute of Health estimates for 2025 that there will be 313,780 new cases of prostate cancer and about 35,770 deaths from prostate cancer. Between 2013 and 2022, the incidence rate of prostate cancer has increased by 1.8% per year. About 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer during their lifetime. It's more likely to develop in older men. About 6 in 10 prostate cancers are diagnosed in men who are 65 or older. Prostate cancer risk is also higher in African American men and in Caribbean men of African ancestry. Prostate cancer is the second leading cause of cancer death in American men, behind only lung cancer. It's estimated more than 3.5 million men in the United States who have been diagnosed with prostate cancer at some point are still alive today. Still ahead, how to get to Sesame Street is changing. The streaming service that's throwing the beloved kids show a lifeline. Plus, the importance of unconditional love in a way children can understand. Our conversation with best-selling author Chasten Buttigieg about his book, Papa's Coming Home. Listen to the frightening moment. Air traffic control at LaGuardia Airport in New York shouts at pilots to abort their takeoff. The bankrupt DNA testing company 23andMe agrees to sell its valuable assets, and scientists say don't snooze, sleep. These stories and more in tonight's rundown.
NASA warns a series of solar flares could affect us here on Earth over the next few weeks. NASA released video of 2 X-class flares recorded last week, the largest observed this year. Flares this large can impact radio communications, power grids, and navigational signals. The Middle East has already experienced radio blackouts for about 10 minutes. The reason for so much activity? The sun is in its solar maximum period. during which its magnetic poles reverse, a once-in-a-decade occurrence. 3 family members were killed in a deadly train accident this weekend in Fremont, Ohio. Authorities believe a grandmother, mother, and a 5-year-old daughter were struck and killed while fishing from an elevated train trestle. A 14-month-old baby boy, also believed to be a family member, survived. A witness pulled him from the water and gave him CPR. The FAA is investigating a close call earlier this month at New York's LaGuardia Airport, raising more concerns about air safety and a shortage of air traffic controllers heading into the busy Memorial Day holiday. The FAA revealed an American Airlines flight aborted takeoff because a United plane was in its path, taxiing on the same runway. Air traffic control alerted the pilots. Flight Radar 24 shows the planes were just a quarter-mile apart.
Cricket 4736, stop. 2657, expedite off, please. Correct, 2657. Airport 736, stop, bridge exit, takeoff 13.
The cause of the incident is still being investigated. The troubled DNA testing company 23andMe, which filed for bankruptcy in March, says it has agreed to sell its assets to Regeneron Pharmaceuticals for $256 million. Regeneron says it will use 23andMe's data for genetics-guided research and drug development, while insisting it will protect users' data. The purchase is subject to bankruptcy court and regulatory approvals. Customers, meantime, can still opt to delete some of their data. Netflix is getting some friendly new neighbors. Sesame Street is moving in. New episodes of the beloved 56-year-old children's show will now simultaneously be released on both PBS and Netflix. The deal comes after the expiration of Sesame Workshop's 10-year deal with HBO. The deal no doubt welcome news for the nonprofit, which recently laid off 20% of its staff, due in part to the Trump administration's cancellation of certain grants. A new study published in the journal Scientific Reports concludes that you're better off skipping the snooze button. Researchers say the valuable minutes just before waking are the most important phase of sleep, when rapid eye movements are at their peak, and snoozing interrupts that. Their advice: set your alarm for the latest possible time, then commit to getting out of bed the first time it goes off.
New York Times bestselling author, teacher, advocate, and husband of former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is out with a new children's book. The picture book called Papa's Coming Home follows the tale of unconditional love as readers see the 2 husbands, their 2 children, Gus and Penelope, and rescue dog, as they build unforgettable moments and memories together. Chasten Buttigieg, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We really enjoy the book. I just thought right off the bat, this has to be so similar to your real life family, right? I mean, how much of this is ripped from the pages of everyday life in the Buttigieg household?
Some of it. Obviously, like any parent knows, when you're reading picture books, you sort of get annoyed with the fictionalization of parenting, right? Like the parents from Bluey always make it seem super easy. So, you know, I'm not always baking 7-layer cakes and picking flowers in the garden, but I mean, this is a message of love and excitement and creativity in the home. But the chaos is definitely the thing that carries through.
I was reading one quote where it talked about how family isn't a lesson or an issue, but a given. And how this book really does normalize the idea of 2 dads. It's not trying to explain it or tell the story of that. It's really just about dad's coming home and we're excited and let's bake that 7-layer cake and let's make sure he has all his favorite things in the car.
Yeah, they're just there. You know, it's never mentioned, but I think that's really great. It provides an opportunity for folks to see a family like ours, maybe like a window into our life, and it also provides a mirror for families like ours to finally have a book that looks like their family. So I really hope that it's a useful tool for both types of families. One, maybe to just see a different type of family, and for families like ours to add one book to the collection that finally has some representation.
And of course, you're a New York Times bestselling author with regard to your memoir, I Have Something to Tell You, not just for adults, but also YA as well. What made you decide, you know what, I'm going to take a little venture into children's picture books?
Well, this actually was sort of born out of a frustration that we didn't have a lot of children's books like this. When our kids were born, I started looking around for books that featured a family like ours. I didn't want difference to be upfront. I just wanted a funny day-in-the-life story of a family that looked like ours, and I was coming up short. So I started writing them. And this is the story that really stuck. And I actually wrote this one on an airplane coming home from a work trip and thinking about how excited our kids might be to welcome me home. And what a universal feeling that so many families go through. Somebody's away on a trip, a parent is gone, and you can't wait to have them back home.
As you know, there are a number of LGBTQ themed books that are being banned in a number of states. Did that play a role at all in your process when you were deciding, I'm going to write a book about two dads?
It didn't, no. I wanted to write a book that looked like my family, and it was a great opportunity for my kids to see themselves in this book. But I also think this will be a useful tool for every family. At the core of this book is a message about unconditional love. The papa is coming home. The kids are so excited to welcome him home. They bake him the cake, they pick him the flowers, and they think that he will have missed all of these things, all this stuff. But in the end of the book, when he comes home, he says, that's really sweet. I love all this stuff. You know, I love coming home to my books and my model airplane and all the flowers in the garden. But the best part about coming home is you. It's this message about love over material things, that unconditional love is what makes a home, and a family. And I think that is a story that every family can enjoy.
And what did your kids think when they finally saw the finished product and saw these kids who kind of look like them?
Yeah, I mean, Dan Taylor, the illustrator, did such a beautiful job. The first time I opened the PDF of some of the mock-ups, Penelope, my daughter, ran up to the kitchen table, and right away she said, that's me, that's Gus, that's Papa, that's Dad. And what a special feeling to know that your daughter sees herself reflected in the pages of the book. So I'm really proud of Dan and the work that he did.
Give us a sense. I know now you guys are living in Michigan.
That's right.
The swing state of Michigan. I'm wondering if there's any politics at all on the horizon, you think?
No, I grew up in northern Michigan, and it was really important to us to be closer to the family. As anybody with young children can tell you, it really does take a village. So grateful to be living down the road from my parents in a very supportive and beautiful community in northern Michigan. You know, I'm not focused on his career at this point. You know, I'm very proud of him. I think he's doing great work, but it is so nice to just be home with friends and family and focused on being good dads.
We can all relate to that. Chasten, thank you so much for coming on the
Thanks.
show. And you can purchase Papa's Coming Home wherever books are sold. That is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us.